Scott Adams is getting canceled and Elon Musk is coming to his defense. We're going to see precisely what's going on in all of this and how it all absolutely demonstrates that the days of leftist liberalism are indeed coming to a decisive end. You are not going to want to miss this. The cultural commentator Scott Adams, who's originally and best known as the creator of the comic strip Dilbert, is in some serious hot woke waters today. In his February 22nd video, Adams responded to a recent Rasmussen poll, a very edgy poll, that asked the question, is it okay to be white? And in responding to that, 53% of blacks said yes, it's okay to be white. But Adams took issue with the other 47%, who apparently do not think it's okay to be white, to which he said this.
So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. And I don't want to have anything to do with them. And I would say, based on the current way things are going, the best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the fuck away. Wherever you have to go, just get away. Because there's no fixing this. This can't be fixed.
Now, those comments have since provoked a firestorm among newspapers that carry the Dilbert cartoon, virtually all of which announced that they were canceling the Dilbert comic strip in response to what they considered to be Adams' blatantly racist comments. And now, in what is perhaps the biggest repercussions of such comments, his distributor, Andrews McMeel Universal, announced that they are indeed cutting ties with Adams, thus officially ending the national syndication for the Dilbert comic strip. Now, the controversy hardly ends there. Elon Musk is weighing in and ratcheting up the provocation. He tweeted out in defense of Adams, it's actually the media that's racist. And he went on to say, for a very long time, U.S. media was racist against non-white people. Now they're racist against whites and Asians. Same thing happened with elite colleges and high schools in America. Maybe they can try not being racist. Now, obviously, it would appear that Musk is referring primarily to affirmative action measures, which he sees as discriminatory against whites and Asians, particularly in college admission standards. But more broadly, Musk is raising the issue of what's widely referred to as reverse discrimination, which is generally defined as the dispositional prejudice and social exclusion of the dominant ethnicity. One of the widely recognized characteristics of modern liberal society is, of course, what we know as multiculturalism. Now, the term implies the equal inclusion of multiple cultures in any given liberal civic society. In other words, liberal societies are not unicultural, they are multicultural. And yet, it's also widely recognized that that's not what multicultural societies are. It's not merely a matter of multiple cultures equally participating in civic society. Multiculturalism often, if not always, works itself out in a very noticeable and ironic cultural disproportionality. The problem is that multiculturalism generally enjoins minority groups to celebrate their ethnicity. So, for example, this month is Black History Month, or at the Super Bowl, we had the performance of a so-called black national anthem. Regardless of what one thinks of that, the key is that certain groups, minority groups, are encouraged to be radically ethnocentric and celebrate their cultural uniqueness, all the while the dominant ethnic group is afforded no such luxury. The dominant ethnic group is not merely discouraged from celebrating their ethnicity, they're outright forbidden from doing so. And so this ethnocultural asymmetry, or as some would put it, inequality, is provoking its own backlash. Precisely what we call the populist backlash that's happening within liberal societies all over the Western world. And this is precisely why a number of scholars are arguing that it's liberalism itself that's unraveling right before our very eyes. I kid you not. We're going to see exactly why liberalism is indeed coming to an end as we speak. But first, gang, make sure to click on that link below and protect yourself from our current economic insanity with the timeless value of gold and silver. As you know, patriots over the centuries have always relied on gold and silver to protect their assets during economic storms. And that is where the amazing patriots over at Goldco come in. If you've got $50,000 or more in IRA, 401k, or savings account, you need to protect those assets from bumbling Biden's insanity with the timeless value of gold and silver. Click on that link below and talk to our good friends over at Goldco. They're patriots just like us, and they want you to succeed so much, they're offering up to $10,000 in free silver if you open up an account with them. But that is a limited time offer, gang, so don't wait. Click on that link below or visit my special website, turleytalkslikesgold.com. Professor Carol Swain, who is herself black, authored a very large and substantial study literally 20 years ago that predicted in many respects precisely this kind of backlash. She noticed that back in 2002, so she's way ahead of the curve here, she noted that what she called the new white nationalism is different than the white nationalists of the past who thought white people were biologically and genetically superior to non-whites. The new white nationalists, as she calls them, instead are motivated, get this, by civil rights. They're making the case that the current project of multiculturalism is unfairly and arbitrarily discriminating against white people and white interests on behalf of non-white constituents whose interests are taking a priority in terms of national policy. So, in other words, as Swain puts it, if blacks get to vote their political interests, and if Latinos get to vote their political interests, and they're encouraged to do so, and Asians get to vote their political interests and the like, then why on earth can't whites vote on behalf of their own political interests? So what she's calling the new white nationalism, this is back again around 2000, it's not motivated by overt racism. In fact, all indicators show that racism is an all-time low. It's not overt racism that's motivating the new white nationalism, as she calls it, but rather it's being provoked by what more and more whites perceive as deliberate discrimination against them simply because they happen to be white. And Professor Swain's work has been corroborated of late by a relatively recent study that found that more than half of white Americans believe that whites have replaced blacks as the primary victims of discrimination. But all this goes even deeper. You see, a number of scholars are recognizing that all of this racial polarization is actually indicative of the collapse of liberalism itself. As we're all witnessing firsthand, as it were, liberal multicultural societies provoke unsustainable levels of lowering social trust. In other words, societies that are basically unicultural, united by a single dominant culture, tend to foster high degrees of social trust, while societies that are multicultural, characterized by the issues we've been discussing, they tend to exemplify rather low levels of social trust. A very interesting study came out of Sweden that surveyed interpersonal trust among the Swedish population between the years of 2014 and 2017. So that was before and after the refugee crisis of 2015. Sweden, per capita, received the most amount of refugees during that time. And what they found, that confidence and faith that Swedes had in their neighbors, which is a key gauge of social trust, significantly dropped in 20 of 33 municipalities, 60% of their municipalities. And the study found a very clear converse relationship in that the more refugees in a particular municipality, the lower the social trust. Now, what does all this mean? It means, in many respects, that unless liberal multicultural societies can reverse the implosion in social trust, their days are over. Liberalism as a political reality is coming to an end. Liberal society is simply going to unravel with no viable social trust mechanism to prevent the inevitable balkanization. Interestingly, this is precisely where civic nationalism comes in, the very civic nationalism touted most notably by the MAGA movement, or in Russia, the Russian Federation that has over 100 ethnicities, but a single Orthodox Russian culture that binds the population together. So it's going to be fascinating to see how all of this plays out. But needless to say, I think the jig is up. The days of liberalism are inevitably coming to an end. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You'll definitely want to check out my latest video on U.S. Patriot militias entering Mexico and fighting back right along that southern border. You're not going to want to miss this. It's absolutely amazing. So make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.